This is the 46 of 46 podcast Summit Sessions, where we'll talk all things Adirondack, backcountry, and beyond. From high peak stories and adventures to trail tips and tricks, we'll dive deep into the heart of these mountains and the people who passionately climb them. Adirondack maps and spruce traps, bushwhacks and backpacks. It's all here on the 46 of 46 Summit Sessions. Hello everyone, I hope you're all enjoying your summertime fun, and welcome back to another Summit Session here on the 46 of 46 podcast. This summer has been pretty wet here in the Adirondack Park. However, the weather over the next 10 days or so looks quite promising. So here's to hoping for a warm and sunny August. And I know many of you listeners have been up here in the park enjoying all those summertime activities that the ADK brings, from hiking to paddling to camping to rock climbing and even mountain biking. And it's always just great to see pictures and videos of just how much of an outdoors paradise this place really is. And it really showcases that perfectly here in the season of summer. It's been fantastic so far. But this week on the podcast, I'll be speaking to a woman who I had the privilege of following her 46er journey as it unfolded, and it was a true treat to follow along and made for a very unique story that I felt compelled to share with all of you here on the podcast. And whenever I share people's 46er journeys on the show, it's because something about what they experienced caught my attention. And as anyone who has listened to this show or hiked the high peaks knows, these mountains change people for the better, and that's exactly what happened to Liz. My guest tonight is Liz Bacelar. And Liz reached out to me when she started hiking here in the Adirondacks after discovering this very podcast. Over time, we formed a friendship, and Liz is the perfect example of what happened to so many others during the COVID shutdown back in 2020. She discovered the outdoors, and it completely changed her life. Originally from Brazil, her family lives down in Westchester County at the moment, just outside New York City. And if you would have told her a couple months prior to hiking her first high peak during the pandemic that she would soon be car camping at a trailhead deep in the woods of the Adirondacks, she would have said you're crazy. Amazing. I love Liz's story, and I'm thrilled to share it with you all tonight here on the 46 of 46 podcast. So Liz, it's great to chat with you here on the show. Welcome to the 46 of 46 podcast, and thanks for coming on.
Oh my gosh, James, this is so surreal. It's like meeting this band they always listen to your whole life. Like my whole journey, listen to your podcast. Now I'm on it. Like, what the heck just happened? I'm really, really happy you're having me on.
Oh, absolutely. I really appreciate you being willing to share your 46er journey here on the show, because as I've mentioned to you in our conversations when we've chatted, you know, I loved how your whole story unfolded for you. And I remember one of our first conversations, you telling me that how if someone had told you before you started hiking that you'd soon be sleeping in your car, in the woods, at a hiking trailhead, that you would have said that they were absolutely crazy. And now here you are, you're an Adirondack 46er. You even have multiple winter peaks under your belt too. So, I mean, it's really awesome to see how this place and the outdoors in general really grabbed hold of you quickly.
I can't wait to finish my winter one, man.
Absolutely.
I drank the Kool-Aid. But I think if you were to write down the profile of your average 46er, I'm the opposite of all of that. And I did not see that coming. So I guess the message to anyone listening that feels kind of this way, it is more achievable than you think. And there is no time to think about being an outsider. You know, it's really about this personal journey. If that aligns with what you want, and allowing yourself time to go through that transformation. When we first met, I didn't even know what that meant, being transformed by that. I didn't know what the mountains meant. I remember my language got changed by all of our conversations and each one of the experiences, because I remember talking about hating mountains and I don't want to do this one's gonna suck. I just, as I got to the end, my mind completely flipped. Like everything was a welcome challenge. Now I'm even thinking about doing Mac Mountain, who's not even a required mountain.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
I mean, that's why I always say to people, going through the 46 high peaks, it's an evolution of a person. You evolve throughout the journey. And I think anybody who has done it will agree completely with you that the way they looked at the mountains when they did their first couple, whether it was, Cascade and Porter or people who started on Marcy, by the end, when they're at, number 46, their whole vibe towards the outdoors, the mountains, hiking, the whole thing is drastically different. And that's why I always call it a journey. And, there's this whole thing up here lately that, people kind of crap on the whole idea of, they call it 46ing like it's a negative thing. But man, I tell you, just like what you're saying, I think there's so many better things that come out of people who commit to accomplishing the task, and they do it, because I think what it does to every individual that does it is it improves them as a person, how they feel about the outdoors, and just, it translates and transfers to everything else in their life outside of, just climbing up mountains and walking on trails. But yeah, give us a little background about yourself. How'd you get into the outdoors? What were you doing before you started hiking? I know you did your first high peak in September of 2020. So give us a little background about yourself.
And that high peak in September was the third proper hike in my life.
Amazing. Absolutely
Just hike
amazing.
in general, right? I've always liked nature, but I never really thought about hiking mountains before. I did one, which was pretty wild one that I did abroad. I did Fuji, which was
Okay.
pretty intense.
Absolutely.
But Fuji is different. It's very different. You take your time. It takes 2 days. There's a restaurant that you can lounge at. Like, it's a beautiful experience, but it's not really a feat of fitness, and it's not even something about you against the elements. It's a much more friendly experience. It's long, but it's safe. And it's that's why it doesn't really compare. So I would hear the stories about people hiking. I never quite understood why. And I was kind of a beach person.
Sure.
Was your friend? I would say, oh, I'd rather go to the beach. And something happened in my life. And what my favorite memories of my 46er journey are actually the stories I've learned and the people I've met, aside from all the incredible magical moments that you find in the mountains, right? But one theme that I found throughout all the people that I met is what brought them there is either loss, like they're overcoming some kind of loss. It could be someone, it could be something. And that loss kind of resulted in some loss of sense of self, wanting to find yourself again. It sounds like such a goddamn cliche, right? But I was experiencing a huge loss. I was a successful tech founder who had sold her first company, and it was kind of a big deal. And then the second company, COVID, really crushed all my dreams, and I had worked so hard for it. And I got so depressed. I've never been depressed my whole life. I'm like a strong person that bring it, and all my friends rely on me to figure everything out. And suddenly I was in this hole and I couldn't get myself out of it. I'm a mom. I have a great family. And I felt so ungrateful that, my God has been so good to me. Why can I stop crying? And it was one day, and I'm explaining this because what I did to start my journey, I don't think it should be done. I think it was a mistake, but my mind was not in the right place. It was a moment of desperation. My birthday was approaching, and for the first time in my life, I kind of regretted being born. Like, I was in such a dark, sad place. And I'm like, I don't feel this way. This is not who I am. So I went on Google and I Googled tallest mountain in New York, because I had this incredible memory of being on top of Fuji and feeling surrounded by my friends and feeling so happy. I wanted to tap into that feeling again. And then there it was, Marcy. So I was one of those dumb people that hopped in the car and just drove to Marcy. James, I had nothing. I stopped by REI on the way there. I picked up a backpack, a water bottle, jean, a pair of boots, and that's it. A couple bars.
I'm sure you probably
I
passed
had
a few people on the trail that were dressed similarly. So that's all part of the. It's all part of
I
the
was not wearing
evolution.
cotton,
Yeah,
and
sure.
I had a windproof jacket that I wore at Fuji. But no real preparedness, no starting a cascade, no giving myself, not staring at the map, figuring out the route. I did find people that knew the routes. I kind of tagged along, but you shouldn't outsource knowing where you're going. It's okay for someone to know more than you do, but you should have a sense of you should have your own bearings, you know that. But I just wanted to get to that peak, and just I'll figure everything out later. It was an awful hike.
Oh, I could
it
imagine.
was it was grueling. It took me, I don't know, like 19 hours, 18 hours, I think. Yeah, it was 17 hours the whole day because, of course, the group was not going to just Marcy. They were doing Marcy, Gray, and Skylight. I didn't even know about that.
Oh God,
I know that was my welcome to the high peaks.
that's a big
It
day.
was I know. I was limping back to my car. I couldn't walk for days. And then I started thinking, I learned so much the people I hiked with. I observed them. I learned so much. On the other people that I've met on the trail, I compare myself to them. I saw how I was making some mistakes. And when you're really in tune, you realize, whoa, it shouldn't be this way. And I started researching after I finished that first hike on how should you do this the right way? What should I have done? And then I got hooked. So what I did after that, I went to Cascade. I'm like, hold on, let me start the right way. I went to Cascade and Porter. And then I picked up from there. From that point on, I created a list. I created based on how I know myself, I rank the mountains on difficulty for my level. Like some people are really at ease with rock climbing, right? So Saddleback is not a big of a deal. For me, I like the heights, but I don't have experience in rock climbing, so I put that last. Um, and snow, I was kind of terrified of snow, and I created like, oh, this is going to take me 2 years, so I I stopped hiking. In my plans, I stopped hiking in October, and I'll pick it up again in May. That's not what happened.
Oh, that's I was going to say that's very much not what happened. So before we get on to that, so you hit Cascade and Porter. Was that on the same trip that you did Marcy,
No, no,
Skylight, and
no.
Gray?
So I did
Okay.
Marcy Gray Skylight. I got there at 7 p.m. Um, and then we slept. I crashed on someone's tent. We woke up at 2 a.m., did a sunrise hike. That part was awesome. When you get on top of Marcy, it's awesome. When you're doing Marcy Gray and Skylight, it's amazing. But that is nothing. That's not even halfway.
Yeah, I know.
I
Big day.
celebrated way too early.
Sure.
And then they said, oh, let's go to Skylight. I'm like, sure. And then Skylight makes everything even more of a mirage because it's such an easy hike,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Getting on the top of Skylight.
It's
It's
a
so
it's a gimme.
gorgeous.
It's a gimme too.
It's
So you
such
think
a
like in
yeah.
most people's minds, Skylight is half a mile because like you're hiking Marcy, it's just half a mile off the trail.
And
So
it's
it's
so
yeah,
stunning too. So
absolutely.
have you felt this that when you are like 100 meters out, you're so tired, like fuck, I don't think I can do this. You're so tired and exhausted and hungry and hangry. And then you get on the peak, it's like recharge.
Oh, absolutely. Every
There's a
single time.
jolt of energy.
Every single time it's suddenly it's like you have unbelievable amounts of energy. I always actually it's funny you say that because I always mention it's like when I would be back in college, I'd be taking a class and I'd be like, man, I got to go home and take a nap after this class. I'm so tired. And boom, the second the class is over, oh no, I'm not tired. I'm filled with energy. I am
I'm
good to
good.
go. Yeah, it's the same exact thing. You get that high as you get towards the summit.
But you have some basic level of fitness. I didn't. So when
Hmm.
I got on top of Skylight and I felt that energy was just emotional. It wasn't really there
Hmm.
because when they say, let's go to Gray, and I say, yay, that was my undoing. That was one mountain too many for where I was
Sure.
at my fitness level. And that really broke me. But listen, I did it fine. And so I finished around 7 p.m. I crawled back to my car. The last 3 miles were absolute death.